I'm working on this 1961 wheel horse model 401. Last time I got the frame fixed and the front axle bolted on. Now I'm ready to clean more stuff and start putting it back together. There's some junk in the shifter hole there. I'm going to take the shifter out to clean it. That's a special set screw. I think it's a full dog type set screw. There's an unthreaded section on the end that has to be there for the shifter to pivot on. This is kind of like the front axle bolt I worked on in the last video. You got to use the lock nut to hold the screw in the right position to provide barely enough clearance for it to move properly. I need to wire brush these nuts, bolts, and washers. To save time, I'll just show me cleaning 2 of each instead of all 6. Same thing here. I need to run a tap through these nuts. I'll just show 2 instead of all 6. When I get this together, I'm going to spray it down with WD-40. So I'll spray some on all these parts before I get started. few of these nuts were put on backwards originally, and they have burrs on them from the lock washers. I'm going to put them on correctly now, so the burrs would be on the outside. I'll file those off. I put all the bolts in and leave them just loose enough for me to move the frame. When all the bolts are ready, I pull the bottom of the frame towards me and tighten the bolts. That pulls all the bolt slop to one direction and straightens up the frame to be more in line with the transmission. All the other stuff that bolts on later will line up better that way. There's the main piece, a good starting point. I'm going to spray it down with WD-40. Some of this stuff is easier to get to before you get the rear wheels on. And that's what I'm going to work on next. This nut is crimped so it'll stay where you put it. After I remove it, the rust and junk will have worn it out, so it might not grip so good anymore. I'll use a threading die on this end so I don't make it worse. This die has a smaller chamfer on the back, so it'll clean the threads a little bit closer to the nut if I turn it around backwards. I'll run a threading die over the shaft, but I won't run a tap into the nut because then it wouldn't be a crimped nut anymore. Now I can spray this stuff with WD-40. Looks like everything's in good shape, so hopefully it'll go back together pretty easily. I'll use a new snap ring on this. I'm going to wipe off the brake hub where the brake band's going to be. I'm going to bend the cotter pin, but only a little bit in case I need to take it back apart. These bolts have already been wire brushed and sprayed down with WD-40. I move the brake band in the bolt slop so the edge of the brake band is parallel with the edge of the hub. I can't adjust that until the brake pedal and linkage is on. I'm using new snap rings again. And I'll put grease on this stuff to prevent rust. I wanted to get the parts on the side of the transmission first, because you can't get to the stuff with the rear wheels on. These rear tires are questionable. One's got a bad spot in the sidewall. There's a good chance I'll have to change one, or at least fix an inner tube later. For now, I'm going to clean them and put them on there. There's one. I'll do the other one off camera. Okay, here's both of them, ready for the WD-40. Next, I'm going to clean up the lug bolts. First on the wire brush. I'll just show 2 instead of all 6. Then I run a threading die over all of them. I'll just show 2 instead of all 6. Next, I'll run a tap through the holes in the hubs. This tap has a small shank, so I can run it all the way through. Everything's ready. I'm going to bolt them on there. Well, that's as far as I'm going this time, and here's what it looks like. Next time I'll be starting with the front end parts. I want to get it on 4 wheels so I can move it around easy. Then the hood support and steering wheel so I can steer it when I'm pushing it. We'll see how far I get. Alright, that's it.